Commander sat in the cold metal chair, staring at the holographic display in front of him. Two faces looked back at him from the screen. On the left was a woman in her 30s with tired eyes and short black hair. On the right was older with gray streaks in her long hair and worry lines around her mouth. Both women were human. Both were prisoners, and had to choose which one would live. The council chamber around him was massive. It stretched up so high that could barely see the ceiling. Beings from 100 different worlds sat in floating seats, watching him with eyes that ranged from curious to cold. Some had tentacles. Some had scales. Some looked almost human, but not quite. They were all waiting for his answer. "Commander," the lead counselor said. His name was Vex, and he looked like a giant mantis made of blue crystal. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You have heard our terms. The Collective holds ambassador. The Dominion holds minister. Both empires demand justice for perceived crimes. Both refuse to negotiate. War is coming, Commander. War that will destroy billions of lives across dozens of worlds." Did not move. His hands were steady on the armrests of his chair, but inside his heart was racing. "The Council has worked for months to find a solution," Vex continued. "There is only one way to prevent this war. One side must receive satisfaction. One hostage must be released. The other," Vex paused, "the other will be executed. This is the price of peace. You, as Earth's representative, must choose." The chamber was silent, could hear his own breathing. "You have 48 hours, Vex said. "Choose wisely, human." The holographic display flickered off. The council members began to leave, their floating seats drifting toward the exits. Remained in his chair, alone in the enormous room. His communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Jin, his superior back on Earth. Tapped the device on his wrist, and a small hologram of the Admiral appeared. Jin said without greeting, "Choose. She has military intelligence that Earth needs. Minister is a loss but is strategic. That's an order." Admiral began. "That's an order, Commander," Jin repeated, and the hologram vanished. Stood up slowly. His legs felt heavy. He walked out of the chamber and into the corridor of the space station. It was called Meridian 7, a neutral ground where the galaxy's different species met to discuss politics and trade. The corridor was busy with aliens of all kinds, moving past each other in a careful dance of diplomacy. Found a quiet corner near a large window that looked out into space. He could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot among the stars. He had left that planet 5 years ago to serve in the diplomatic corps. He had learned 12 alien languages. He had negotiated trade agreements and peace treaties, but nothing had prepared him for this. His communicator buzzed again. This time it was Counselor, another human who served on Earth's diplomatic team. Was older, experienced, and usually calm, but when his hologram appeared, could see stress in his eyes. "I know what Jin told you," said, "but you need to know the full situation. Minister has 3 children. They're young. If you choose, those children lose their mother. Can you live with that?" "Can I live with choosing and letting die?" asked quietly. Was silent for a moment. "No," he finally said. "You probably can't. This is an impossible choice. The Council knows it. They're doing this deliberately. They want to break us." "Why?" asked. "Because we're new," said. "We've only been in space for 40 years. Every other species in the Council has been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They see us as children. This is a test. They want to see if we'll crack under pressure." Looked out at Earth again. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," said sadly. "I'm sorry. If you can't make the choice, I can. I can take your place. You can resign and no one will blame you." Thought about that. It would be easy to walk away, to let someone else carry this burden, but that felt wrong. Running away was not what humans did, at least not the humans knew. "I'll make the choice," said, "but I need to meet them first, both of them." Looked surprised. "Meet them? That will only make it harder." "Maybe," said, "but I can't choose between 2 pictures on a screen. If I'm going to decide who lives and who dies, I need to look them in the eye. Nodded slowly. I'll see what I can arrange, but be careful. The end that don't trust humans. Going to their ships could be dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, said. The hologram vanished and was alone again. He stayed by the window for a long time, watching Earth and thinking about impossible choices. Later that night, couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters on the station, staring at the ceiling. His room was small and simple, with a bed, a desk, and a small window. He had put a picture of his family on the desk, his parents, his younger sister. They were all back on Earth, living normal lives. They didn't know what he was dealing with right now. He couldn't tell them. His communicator buzzed a third time, almost ignored it, but then he saw the name. It was Dr. Min, a scientist who worked on the station. She studied alien politics and history, had worked with her before on various projects. I heard about the choice, Min said when he answered. Her hologram looked concerned. I've been going through the council's archives. Something doesn't feel right about this. What do you mean? Asked, sitting up. This exact scenario has happened before, Min said. 17 times in the last 300 years. Always the same pattern, 2 empires on the brink of war, hostages from a smaller species. The smaller species forced to choose, and every time it ends the same way. The species that makes the choice becomes weak, divided. They start fighting among themselves about whether the choice was right, and then they become dependent on the council for protection. Felt a chill run down his spine. You think this is deliberate? You think the council is setting us up? I don't know, Min said, but I think you should be very careful. Don't just accept what they're telling you. Ask questions, dig deeper. I will, promised. The next morning, received word that his request had been approved. He would be allowed to visit both hostages. First, he would go to the ship to meet. Then, he would travel to the vessel to meet. He had 24 hours to complete both visits and return with his decision. Put on his formal uniform, the one with Earth's symbol on the chest. He looked at himself in the mirror. He looked tired, older than his 32 years, but his eyes were clear. He knew what he had to do. He had to find the truth, and maybe, just maybe, he could find a way out of this impossible choice. As he left his quarters and headed toward the docking bay, thought about something his father had once told him. When someone gives you only 2 choices, his father had said, always look for the third option they're not telling you about. Smiled grimly. It was time to start looking. The ship was enormous. It floated in space like a dark city made of metal and glass. Small shuttle approached slowly, following the flight path that traffic control had assigned. Through the window, he could see gun turrets tracking his movement. One wrong move and they would destroy him in seconds. Captain Bo sat in the pilot's seat next to him. She was his security officer, a stern woman with sharp eyes who never seemed to relax. I don't like this, she said as they entered the docking bay. They could kill us both and claim it was an accident. They won't, said, though he wasn't entirely sure. They want something from this situation. Killing us doesn't help them. The shuttle landed with a soft thump, and Bo stood up and walked to the exit. The door opened with a hiss, and cold air rushed in. The docking bay was huge and gray, filled with other ships and cargo containers. A group of soldiers waited for them at the bottom of the ramp. Were tall and thin, with pale skin that looked almost white under the harsh lights. They had large eyes, no hair, and wore dark uniforms that covered them from neck to foot. One of them stepped forward. I am, the said in accented but clear English. I will escort you to the prisoner. Thank you, said. They walked through the ship in silence. The corridors were clean and sterile, lit by blue lights that made everything look cold. Noticed that every they passed stopped and stared at them. Humans were rare on ships. Finally, they reached a door, pressed his hand against a panel, and the door slid open. You have 30 minutes, he said. Walked inside. Bo stayed in the corridor with. The room was surprisingly comfortable. It had a bed, a desk, a small bathroom, and even a window showing the stars outside. Sat at the desk, reading something on a tablet. She looked up when entered and her eyes widened. "Commander," she said, standing quickly, "I didn't expect. Are you here to negotiate my release?" "In a way," said carefully. He sat down in a chair across from her. "The council has given me a choice. You or minister, one of you will be released, the other will be executed." His face went pale. She sat back down slowly. "And you have to choose." "Yes." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "That's insane. How can anyone make that choice?" "Admiral Jin ordered me to choose you," said. "He says you have important military intelligence." Shook her head. "Intelligence that will be useless if Earth becomes known as the species that sacrifices its own people to save others. Commander, if you choose me, Earth loses either way. We lose and we lose our honor." "Then what should I do?" asked. Leaned forward. "Don't choose either of us. Find another way." "There is no other way," said. The council was clear. "The council is lying," said suddenly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Commander, I've been here for 3 months. I've had a lot of time to think, to observe. The guarding me talk when they think I can't hear. I've learned some of their language, and I've pieced together something important." Leaned closer. "What?" "This war," said. "It's not real. I mean, it is real now, but it didn't start naturally. Someone has been manipulating both thee and the, feeding them false information, creating incidents to make them hate each other. Someone wants this war to happen." "Who?" asked. "I don't know," admitted. "But I think it's connected to the council, some faction within it. Maybe not the council itself, but someone with power in the galactic government." Felt his pulse quicken. This matched what Dr. Min had told him about the pattern of conflicts. Why would they do that? "I'm not sure," said. "But think about it. If they and go to war, they'll destroy each other. 2 of the most powerful empires in the galaxy gone. Who benefits from that?" "The council," said slowly. "They become the dominant power." "Exactly," said. "And forcing Earth to choose between us. That's not about saving me, or it's about breaking us, making us weak." Stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see the fleet assembling, hundreds of warships preparing for battle. "If what you're saying is true, then might know something too." "You need to talk to her," said. "Compare notes. If we both discovered the same thing independently, then we know it's true." The door opened, stood there. "Time is finished," he said. Turn back to, "If I find proof of this conspiracy, what then?" "Then you expose it," said. "You tell everyone. You give thee and a reason to stop fighting each other and start looking for the real enemy." "And you?" asked. Smiled sadly. "Don't choose me, Commander, choose the truth." Walked out of the room. His mind was racing. Bo fell into step beside him as they walked back to the shuttle. "How did it go?" she asked. "I need to see," said, "right now." The trip to the ship took 4 hours. The Dominion's vessel was different from the ship, where the preferred cold efficiency, the built for intimidation. Their ship was massive and dark, covered in spikes and armor plating. It looked like a weapon, not a vessel. They themselves were large and muscular, covered in thick scales that ranged from green to brown. They had powerful jaws filled with sharp teeth. They looked like predators because they were. They had evolved as hunters on their home world, and they brought that mentality to everything they did. A guard named led through the ship. Unlike they didn't bother with courtesy, simply walked and had to keep up or get left behind. Cell was different from S. It was smaller, darker, with no window, just a bed and a chair. Sat on the bed, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked up when entered and relief flooded her face. "Commander," she said, "please tell me you're here with good news." Explained the situation again. The choice, the deadline, listened in silence, and when he finished, tears ran down her face. "My children," she whispered. "I have 3 children, Commander. They're 9, 12, and 14. If I die, who will take care of them? Their father is gone, I'm all they have." "I know," said gently, but continued, wiping her eyes. "She's brilliant. She's important to Earth's future. How can I ask you to choose me over her?" "Told me something," said. "She thinks this war is manufactured, that someone is manipulating events." His eyes widened. "She said that?" "Yes, why?" "Because I found the same thing," said, her voice rising with excitement. "I've been analyzing the intelligence reports that led to my capture. The documents that supposedly proved Earth was spying for the commander, they're fake. Very good fakes, but fakes nonetheless. Someone planted them to make them think we betrayed them." "Who?" asked. "I don't know," said. "But here's what I do know. Every piece of evidence that started this war, every incident that made thee and hate each other, it all traces back to the same source. Anonymous intelligence reports, documents that appeared mysteriously, witnesses who can't be. Someone has been building this war for years," said. "Decades," corrected. "This goes back at least 50 years. It's a long game, Commander, and Earth is just the latest piece on the board." Thought for a moment, mentioned the Council might be involved. "Not the Council," said. "At least not all of it, but there's a group. I heard the guards talking about them. They call them the Arbiters. They're supposed to be peacekeepers, mediators, but I think they're the ones orchestrating everything." The door opened, stood there looking impatient. "You go now," he growled. Stood, but before he left, grabbed his arm. "Don't choose either of us, Commander. Find the ones responsible, make them pay." On the shuttle back to the station, Bo looked at with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," said. "I've seen the truth, and now I have to figure out what to do with it." Didn't sleep that night either. He sat in Dr. Min's laboratory, surrounded by screens and holographic displays. Min worked at her computer, pulling up files from the Council's historical archives while watched. Bo stood by the door, keeping guard. "Here," Min said, pointing at a screen. 280 years ago, the Empire and the Commonwealth went to war. Right before the war started, both sides held hostages from the species. They were forced to choose which hostage to save. "What happened?" asked. "The chose," Min said. "They picked their military commander over a civilian administrator. The war destroyed both the and the, but the never recovered. They split into two factions. One group said they made the right choice. The other said they were murderers. The species tore itself apart with civil conflict for 70 years. By the time they reunited, they were weak, dependent on Council aid for survival." "Show me another one," said. Min pulled up more files. 150 years ago, the same pattern, hostages from the species. They had to choose. They picked the hostage who had more political connections. Afterward, the economy collapsed because half their population refused to trade with the other half. They blamed each other for the death of the other hostage. 17 times, said. "You found 17 cases like this." 17 that I can confirm, Min said. "There might be more that were classified or erased from the records." Stood up and paced the small room. "Someone has been doing this for centuries, creating wars, forcing smaller species to make impossible choices, weakening them." "The Arbiters," Bo said from the door. "That's the name mentioned, right?" "Right," said, "but who are they?" Min typed quickly on her computer. "Let me search for that name." After a moment she frowned. "That's odd. There are references to them, but all the detailed files are locked. High-level security. I don't have clearance to access them." "What can you see?" asked. "Just surface information," Min said. "The Arbiters are officially a peacekeeping organization within the Council structure. They mediate conflicts between species. They're supposed to be neutral, but they have a lot of power. They can call for sanctions, freeze assets, even authorize military intervention in extreme cases." "They profit from conflict," said slowly. "They're peacekeepers, so when there's war they become essential. Species pay them for mediation, for protection, for arbitration." It's a perfect system, Bo said bitterly. Create the problem, then sell the solution. We need proof, said. Real proof. Something we can show to thee and the. Something that will make them stop fighting and look at the real enemy. Min worked at her computer for several more hours. She pulled up financial records, communication logs, and diplomatic reports. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Every conflict that the Arbiters had mediated in the past 300 years had started with mysterious intelligence leaks. Every war they had stopped had left the fighting species weakened and dependent. I found something else, Min said as dawn approached. 3 current council members have direct ties to the Arbiters. One of them is on the Security Council. Another handles financial oversight. The third manages communication networks. That's how they control information, said. They can plant fake intelligence, block real information, and manipulate the narrative. His communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Jin. His heart sank. He had 12 hours left to make his choice, and he still didn't know what to do. Commander, Jin's hologram said. His face was stern. I've been patient, but time is running out. Have you made your decision? I need more time, said. There is no more time, Jin said. I've given you an order, choose, that's final. What if there's another way? Asked. There isn't, Jin said. I know this is hard, but sometimes leaders have to make hard choices. That's what separates us from civilians. We do what must be done. Even if it's wrong? Asked quietly. Jin's expression softened slightly. Even then, because the alternative is worse. If you don't choose, the council will choose for us, and they'll choose neither. Both and will die. Is that what you want? No, said. Then make the choice, Jin said. Choose, save one life. That's better than saving none. The hologram vanished, sat down heavily in a chair. Bo put a hand on his shoulder. What are you going to do? She asked. Before could answer, his communicator buzzed again. This time it was Counselor. Said he looked tired, older than usual. I want to make you an offer. You don't have to make this choice. Resign from the diplomatic corps. Walk away. I'll take your place. I'll make the decision. That way you don't have to carry this burden. You do that? Asked. Of course, said. You're young. You have your whole career ahead of you. This choice will haunt you for the rest of your life. Let me carry it instead. I'm old. I've made hard choices before. One more won't matter. Looked at its hologram for a long moment. It would be so easy to accept, to step aside and let someone else decide. But something stopped him. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was duty. Or maybe it was something his father had taught him long ago. When you run from a hard choice, his father had said, you're really just choosing to let someone else suffer in your place. That's not courage. That's cowardice. No, said finally. Thank you, Counselor, but no, this is my responsibility. I'll see it through. Nodded slowly. I understand. Good luck, Commander. The hologram faded. Bo looked at with new respect. What's the plan? I need to talk to someone, said. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth in the distance. That small blue planet where humanity had been born, where they had learned to dream, to reach for the stars, to never give up even when everything seemed impossible. Bo said, how many human ships do we have in this sector? Just our shuttle and 2 small cruisers, Bo said. Why? And how many allied species have we built relationships with since we joined the Council? Bo thought for a moment. We've signed friendship treaties with 47 species, mostly smaller ones, species that don't have much power in the Council but appreciate that we treat them as equals. Contact them, said. All of them. Tell them I need to speak with their representatives. Tell them it's urgent. What are you planning? Min asked. Smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but it was determined. I'm planning to do something very human. I'm going to refuse to play their game. I'm going to find a third option. The Council won't like that, Bo said. I'm counting on it, said. For the next several hours, spoke with representatives from 47 different species. small species that most of the galaxy ignored. The Trill, who looked like walking plants. The Nix, who were barely 3 feet tall. The who communicated through color changes in their skin, species that had been pushed around by larger powers for centuries. Told them everything, about the choice he faced, about the pattern Min had discovered, about the arbiters and their manipulation of galactic politics, and then he asked them a question. Are you tired of being pawns in someone else's game? The answers came back quickly. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Then help me, said. Help me show the galaxy that there's another way, that we don't have to accept the choices they give us, that we can make our own path. By the time he finished, had a coalition, 47 species, hundreds of ships, thousands of voices all saying the same thing, enough. With 8 hours left before his deadline, walked to the council chamber. He was ready. He knew what he was going to do. It was dangerous. It might fail. But it was the most human thing he could think of. When someone gives you only 2 choices, his father had said, always look for the third option. Had found his third option. Now he just had to convince the galaxy to accept it. The council chamber was packed. Every seat was filled. Representatives from hundreds of species floated in their chairs, waiting to hear his decision. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. In the viewing galleries above, even more beings watched. This was history in the making, and everyone wanted to see it. Counselor Vex stood at the center of the chamber, his crystal body reflecting the lights. Commander, he said, his voice booming through the space. Your time has expired. The galaxy waits. Which hostage do you choose, ambassador or minister? Walked to the center of the floor. He wore his formal uniform, crisp and clean. His hands were steady. His voice was calm. I have made my decision, he said. The chamber fell silent. Every eye was on him. I choose neither, said. A wave of sound swept through the chamber. Shocked voices, angry shouts, confused murmurs. Vex raised his hand for silence. That is not an option, Vex said coldly. You must choose one, those are the terms. I reject your terms, said clearly. I reject this entire situation, and I'm here to tell you why. Commander, you are out of order, Vex said. No, said. You are out of order, this council, these arbiters who pull your strings, all of you. More noise from the chamber. Vex's crystal body seemed to glow brighter with anger. You dare accuse the council? I don't accuse the council, interrupted. I accuse the faction within it that has been manufacturing wars for centuries. The same faction that created this war between thee and the lies, Vex said. Then explain this, said. He gestured to Bo, who stood at the edge of the chamber. She activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the council floor. Financial records, communication logs, intelligence reports. 17 times in the last 300 years, said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. 17 times this exact scenario has played out. 2 powerful empires on the brink of war. A smaller species forced to choose between hostages. And every single time, the war destroys the empires while the smaller species tears itself apart with guilt and blame. Every single time, the arbiters step in as peacekeepers. Every single time, they profit. This is a fabrication, Vex said, but his voice wavered slightly. Is it? Asked. He pointed to the hologram. These are your own records. Dr. Min pulled them from the council archives. Anyone can verify them. Min stepped forward from the crowd. I can confirm every word, she said. The pattern is clear. The arbiters benefit from conflict. They create it, then they profit from ending it. And this war, continued, was no different. False intelligence planted with both sides, fake documents, manufactured incidents, all designed to make thee and hate each other. And when the war started, who would benefit? The arbiters. They would mediate. They would arbitrate, they would become indispensable. A representative stood up in the gallery. You have proof of this. Both ambassador and minister independently discovered evidence of the conspiracy, said. They were taken hostage not because they were valuable, but because they knew too much. The arbiters needed them silenced, and they needed humanity weakened. So they created this impossible choice, knowing it would tear us apart. A delegate rose. If what you say is true, where is this proof? Ambassador has it, said. So does minister. Release them, and they will share everything they know, or keep them prisoner and prove that you're afraid of the truth. The chamber erupted in chaos, delegates shouting at each other, accusations flying. Vex tried to call for order, but no one listened. Then a new voice cut through the noise. I believe him. Everyone turned. A man in military dress stood in the gallery. It was the guard who had escorted to sea. I have served aboard that ship for 10 years, said. I have watched Ambassador. She is not a spy. She is not an enemy. She is a scholar who asked too many questions. I believe Commander speaks the truth. Another voice joined in. As do I. It was the guard. Minister is no threat. She uncovered something she was not meant to see. That is why she was taken. More voices. More species standing up, saying they had noticed the pattern too. That they had seen the arbiters profit from wars that seemed to come from nowhere. That they had wondered why conflicts always seemed to escalate just when peace was possible. Vex tried to speak but raised his hand. I'm not finished, he said. I said I choose neither hostage. That's because I choose both. Humanity will rescue Ambassador and Minister, both of them, and we will do it right now. Impossible, Vex said. Theon will never allow it. Then let them try to stop us, said. He tapped his communicator. Captain Bo, execute the plan. Confirmed, Bo said. She was already running toward the docking bay. On the holographic display, new images appeared. Human ships moving into position. Not just the 2 cruisers that Bo had mentioned, but dozens of ships. Small ships from 47 allied species, all converging on the vessels. What is this? A council member shouted. This is humanity refusing to play your game, said. We built alliances while you focused on manipulating empires. We listened to the small voices you ignored, and now those voices are speaking together. We are going to rescue both hostages, not to start a war but to prevent one. Admiral Jin's face appeared on a holographic screen. He looked angry. Commander, you are disobeying direct orders. Stand down immediately. I can't do that, Admiral said calmly. With respect, your orders would have me choose who lives and who dies. I'm a human, sir. We don't do that. We find another way. In space, the rescue operation began. Captain Bo led a team to the ship. Commander, another human officer, led a team to the vessel. They didn't attack. They didn't threaten. They simply appeared, using new technology that humanity had been developing in secret. Phase jump drives that could move ships instantly across short distances. The commanders were so surprised that they hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, the rescue teams moved. They entered the ships not through force but through clever maneuvering. They found, and they brought them out. On the holographic display, watched as both shuttles emerged from the alien ships, both hostages safe, both alive. The council chamber was silent. Everyone stared at the display in disbelief. You see, said quietly, there was a third option. There's always a third option. You just have to be brave enough to look for it. Vex seemed frozen. Other council members were shouting, demanding explanations. But then the commander appeared on the screen. Human, they said, you have violated our sovereignty. You have, he paused. You have shown remarkable courage, and you have raised questions we cannot ignore. We will hear what Ambassador has to say. The Supreme Leader appeared on another screen. Minister will speak to us as well. If there is truth to these accusations, the Dominion wishes to know. And were brought to the council chamber. They stood beside, both looking exhausted but alive. Together, they presented their evidence. The fake documents, the planted intelligence, the manufactured incidents, everything that had been used to push two empires toward war. As they spoke, 3 council members quietly tried to leave the chamber, but Bo had anticipated this. She and her team blocked the exits. "Counselors and," said, pointing at the 3, "all with direct ties to the Arbiters, all benefiting from galactic conflicts. I believe they have some explaining to do." The 3 counselors were taken into custody. The chamber descended into chaos again, but this time it was different. This time, species were talking to each other, comparing notes, sharing experiences, realizing how many times they had been manipulated. Step back and let them talk. He felt exhausted, drained, but also relieved. He had done it. He had found the third option. Approached him. "Thank you," she said simply. Hugged him. "My children will have their mother back. Thank you." Smiled. "Thank you for finding the truth. I just made sure people heard it." The galaxy was changing. Right there in that moment in that chamber, a new order was beginning. One based not on manipulation and fear, but on cooperation and honesty. It would take time, it would be difficult, but it was possible. Because humans had shown them the way. 3 months later, stood in a courtroom on Earth. He wore his formal uniform, but the medals had been removed. He stood at attention while Admiral Jin read the charges against him. "Commander, you are charged with disobeying direct orders, violating military protocol, and acting without proper authority. How do you plead?" "Guilty, sir," said calmly. The courtroom was packed with observers. News crews from a dozen species broadcasted the trial across the galaxy. In the gallery, could see and sitting together. Dr. Min was there too, along with Captain Bo. Many of the representatives from the 47 allied species had come to Earth to watch. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Jin asked. "Yes, sir," said. He turned to face the judges. "I disobeyed orders because the orders were wrong. I was told to choose which human would live and which would die. I was told this was necessary for peace. But it wasn't about peace. It was about control. It was about breaking humanity's spirit, and I refused to let that happen." One of the judges, an older woman named Judge Park, leaned forward. "Commander, you could have simply refused the choice. You could have resigned. Why did you go further? Why did you organize a rescue operation without authorization?" "Because refusing wasn't enough," said. "If I had just walked away, someone else would have made the choice. Someone else would have carried that burden, and humanity would have been weakened either way. I had to show that there was another path, that we don't have to accept impossible choices, that we can create our own solutions." The courtroom murmured. Judge Park nodded slowly. "And what about the risk? Your actions could have started a war." "They could have," admitted. "But I believed that truth was worth the risk. And I was right. The both chose to hear the evidence instead of fighting. They chose dialogue over destruction. That wouldn't have happened if I had simply chosen one hostage over the other." Admiral Jin stepped forward. He looked at with an expression that was hard to read. "Commander, you made me look like a fool. You disobeyed my direct order. You went over my head and contacted foreign powers without authorization. You risked Earth standing in the galactic community." "I know, sir," said, "and I'm sorry for that, but I would do it again." Jin was quiet for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "I know you would, and that's exactly why Earth needs people like you." The courtroom fell silent. "I recommended these charges," Jin continued, "because protocol required it, but I'm here today to withdraw them. Commander acted outside his authority, yes, but he did so to save lives and expose a conspiracy that threatened the entire galaxy. He showed courage that I lacked, and for that I'm grateful." Judge Park looked at the other judges. They nodded. "In light of Admiral Jin's statement and the evidence presented, all charges are dismissed. Commander, you are free to go." The courtroom erupted in applause. People stood and cheered, stood still, almost unable to believe it was over. But it wasn't really over. It was just beginning. The Arbiter's conspiracy had been exposed, but dismantling their network took months of work. The 3 council members who had been arrested provided information in exchange for lighter sentences. They revealed the names of dozens of operatives throughout the galaxy, hidden accounts, secret facilities, entire networks dedicated to manufacturing conflicts. Task forces were formed. Representatives from the Collective, the Dominion, and 47 allied species worked together to track down Arbiter cells. Captain Bo led one of these task forces. She and her team worked tirelessly, crossing the galaxy to arrest operatives and shut down their operations. Commander led another task force. He focused on freezing financial assets, cutting off the Arbiter's funding. Without money, their influence dried up quickly. Dr. Min was appointed as Earth's chief scientific advisor to the reformed Galactic Council. She helped create new protocols to prevent future manipulation. Every intelligence report now required verification from multiple independent sources. Every conflict had to be investigated thoroughly before any action could be taken. Returned to her position as an ambassador, but her role changed. She now worked with the government directly, helping to rebuild trust between their species and humanity. The grateful that had risked everything to save her became one of Earth's closest allies. Reunited with her children. The image of that reunion, broadcast across the galaxy, became a symbol of what humanity had fought for. 3 children hugging their mother, tears of joy running down their faces. It reminded everyone why the fight had been necessary. Counselor, who had offered to take place, resigned from his position. In his resignation speech, he admitted that he had known about the Arbiters but had been too afraid to act. "I let fear control me," he said. "Commander showed me that courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting despite fear. I hope my resignation allows someone braver to take my place." The guard was promoted to commander in his own fleet. He had stood up when it mattered, speaking truth even when it was dangerous. The Emperor personally thanked him for his courage. The guard received similar honors from the Dominion. He became a symbol of integrity within the military. He was promoted to the rank of captain and given command of a new initiative. The Galactic Council, now reformed and more transparent, created a special division dedicated to protecting smaller species from exploitation. Was chosen to lead it. On the day of his promotion ceremony, stood on a stage in the council chamber, the same chamber where he had the council 3 months earlier, but now it felt different, more open, more honest. Representatives from hundreds of species attended. The Emperor was there, the supreme leader, leaders of the 47 allied species, and in the front row, his parents and sister who had traveled from Earth to see him honored. The new head of the council, a fair-minded leader named Counselor Wen, presented with his new rank insignia. "Captain," she said, "you reminded us all of something we had forgotten, that the purpose of government is to serve, not to control. That peace built on truth is stronger than peace built on fear. That every voice matters no matter how small." Accepted the insignia. "Thank you, Counselor, but I didn't do this alone. I had help from people braver than me. From End, who found the truth. From Bo and Min, who helped me act on it. From End, who spoke up when it was dangerous. And from 47 species who dared to stand together when the powerful told them to stay silent." He looked out at the audience. "Humanity is new to the stars. We've only been here for 40 years. We make mistakes. We're still learning, but we brought something with us from Earth. A simple idea, that when someone gives you only 2 bad choices, you don't have to accept either one. You can look for a third option. You can create your own path. Some people call this stubbornness. Some call it foolishness. But I call it hope. Hope that things can be better. Hope that we can find solutions to impossible problems. Hope that we don't have to sacrifice our values to survive." The audience applauded, not politely but with genuine feeling. These were species that had been ignored, pushed around, manipulated, and they had found their voice. After the ceremony, walked through the station with his family. His mother held his arm, proud tears in her eyes. His father walked beside him with a smile. His sister bombarded him with questions about space travel and alien species. They stopped at the observation deck, looking out at Earth, that small blue planet where humanity had started its journey. "You know," his father said quietly, "when I told you to look for the third option, I didn't think you'd use it to reshape galactic politics." Laughed, "Neither did I was just trying to save 2 lives." "You saved more than that," his mother said. "You saved the idea that individuals matter, that conscience is more important than obedience. That's worth more than 2 lives. That's worth everything." A group of children approached them, 3 children. They had been at the ceremony with their mother. "Captain," the oldest one said, a 14-year-old girl named, "we wanted to thank you for bringing our mom home." The middle child, a 12-year-old boy named Minu, nodded. "Everyone told us she was gone, that we had to accept it, but you didn't accept it." The youngest, a 9-year-old girl named, just hugged Sleg. He patted her head gently. "Your mother was very brave," said. "She found the truth when everyone else was looking the other way. I just made sure people listened." "Did you really tell the whole council they were wrong?" asked, eyes wide. "I did," admitted. "Weren't you scared?" Minu asked. "Terrified," said honestly. "But your mother and ambassador needed help, and sometimes being scared is okay, as long as you don't let it stop you from doing what's right." Appeared, walking over to collect her children. "I hope they're not bothering you, Captain." "Not at all," said. "They're wonderful." Smiled. "They're alive because of you, we all are." She paused. "I heard you're forming a new division to protect smaller species." "That's right," said. "Good," said, "because the galaxy needs it. There are too many species that can't defend themselves, too many that get pushed around by bigger powers. What you did for us, you need to do for them too." "I will," promised. As and her children walked away, Sister tugged on his sleeve. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," said. "When you were deciding what to do, what made you choose to save both of them? Most people would have just picked one." "Thought about that. I remembered something Dad taught me about always looking for the third option. But also I thought about what it means to be human. We're not the strongest species. We don't have the best technology, but we have something else." "What?" his sister asked. "We don't give up," said. "When someone tells us something is impossible, we work harder to make it possible. When someone tells us we have to choose between 2 bad options, we create a third one. That's what makes us human, not our technology or our strength. Our refusal to accept that some problems can't be solved." His father put a hand on shoulder. "I'm proud of you, son. You showed the galaxy what humanity is really about." Looked out at the stars. Billions of them, stretching in every direction. Billions of worlds with billions of stories. And somewhere out there, someone else was probably facing an impossible choice right now. Someone else was being told they had to accept a bad situation because there was no other way. But now they had an example. They had proof that there was another way. They had the human way. As stood there with his family, looking at the stars, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the false peace of choosing the lesser evil, but real peace. The peace that comes from knowing you did the right thing, no matter how hard it was. The galaxy was changing. It would take time. There would be setbacks, but change was happening. Because one person had refused to accept an impossible choice. Because one person had looked for a third option. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.